Dear friends, it's a real pleasure to welcome you here today at the ENA for this new edition of our annual competition conference. That is very special today because we are finishing and presenting to you a joint project with the Bundeskartellamt. And this conference has been prepared hand in hand with the Bundeskartellamt. Through this project, we also want to reaffirm the vital importance of the bilateral cooperation that we have been engaging on for many years with our German colleagues. This special relationship with the Bundeskartellamt has been built over many years, but we believe that today it is ever more important than before because of the complexity of digital issues. So in a context where we intensify the cooperation within the different fora, such as the European Competition Network, the ICN, the OECD, and more recently the G7 with the new Common Understanding on Competition and Digital that we arrived at last summer, we think that the topic of digital is of the utmost importance, and that those joint studies are a particular tool that is very useful. So before detailing the content of this new joint study, I would like to give the floor to Andreas Mundt, who unfortunately has not been able to be present this morning, but has sent us very kindly a video link yesterday to share some thoughts with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues from the Autorité, la Concurrence, and from the Bundeskartellamt, dear Isabelle. On the one hand, of course, it's a pleasure for me to talk to you today on this occasion. The Autorité and the Federal Cartel Office are publishing the joint paper on algorithms and competition. And I thank our colleagues in Paris for this accompanying conference on this occasion. On the other hand, you can imagine I would very much have liked to be with you in Paris today, but I received on very short notice an invitation from the Economic Committee of the Federal Parliament of Germany in Berlin, so I have to be in Berlin today, and I really regret not to be with you today. The French Autorité and the German Bundeskartellamt look back on many and fruitful years of cooperation. We are cooperating in many fora, at the OECD, in the ECN, the ICN. In the framework of the G7, we just set up a common understanding of competition in the digital economy under French presidency. And not of minor relevance is our bilateral cooperation. We host the Franco-German Competition Day since 2004. We have done a lot of joint projects together. And we have one joint approach today. Both of our agencies believe that competition policy in the digital era is of utmost importance, and that we have to look for ways how to transform our established rules in the offline world into the online world. So this is the reason for this project. We are combining forces in order to analyze the implication of digitalization on competition. And it's a complex issue. We observe that algorithms are becoming more and more significant. We are also observing that at the same time they become more and more sophisticated. They are used for matching and ranking purposes. They are used for dynamic price setting. They reduce human interaction, replacing it with automated machine-to-machine communication. We see elaborate algorithms that even act autonomously, at least to some degree. Algorithms are important drivers of digitalization, and they enable companies to be highly innovative. On the other hand, they might also have detrimental effects to the market. Very much of what we are doing today is forward-looking because there have been very few cases with algorithms in the past. We tackle this issue of algorithms from various and different perspectives. We might be faced with an algorithm that has merely the function to support a very traditional cartel. So investing the algorithm might help us to get some additional insight into that cartel behavior. But there might also be the need to develop an advanced understanding of the respective algorithm. In this context, our paper elaborates on which information could be relevant for an investigation. And we try to identify different investigative approaches for analyzing algorithms of a varying complexity. That ranges from so-called descriptive, rule-based algorithms, and that goes up to so-called black box algorithms that make use of advanced learning methods. This illustrates that we are keeping practical considerations in mind throughout the story, throughout the study that we have done. We are considering potential scenarios on the one hand, but always based and built on the practical experience that we have gained so far. I do believe that this study can be important for all practitioners. We devote a chapter to practical challenges when investigating algorithms, and we are competition authorities that strive to enforce competition law all the time. We naturally think about how to investigate, we think about how to collect evidence, and we think about how to render convincing decisions, also with regard to algorithms and also with regard to the economy in the digital era. So I assume this paper will be important for our day-to-day work in the Federal Cartel Office and in the Autorité. And what I also hope, of course, it is worthwhile for other agencies to take a close look at it and maybe to learn something from the work that we have done. It's another example of our successful cooperation in Bonn and in Paris. And I would like to thank everyone who has been involved in this project on both sides of the Rhine River. So again, please accept my apologies for not being with you in Paris. I wish you a wonderful conference. I wish you fruitful debates. I think you'll have a great day in Paris. Thank you very much.
So, I'm sure that Andreas heard our applause better than the beginning of the video. Sorry about that. So I will now tell you a few words about the content of the study and why we chose the topic of algorithm. I would like to remind you that we have come a long way on those topics, and especially 3 years ago when we published a paper on big data and competition. We were then convinced that big data would become ever more crucial from the point of view of competition enforcement and needed our full attention. And indeed, this study has been extremely useful within the agency to provide analytical framework that we then used in many merger and antitrust decisions, and also in our sector inquiry on online advertising, for example. And we relied on this framework, and we were also very pleased to see that this study was used as a reference by other competition agencies that engage in similar work on big data, for example, in Italy, in Canada, or Australia. But we felt with Andreas Mund that we needed to go further in some areas and topics, and that algorithm was really a topic that needed a closer look. The reason for that is the following. Of course, algorithms have been there for a very long time, and many algorithms are used today by companies but have no real competition edge. For example, those that are used for production, engineering, they are just part of the process through which companies improve their efficiency. But in some sectors of the economy and in certain areas, algorithms are really at the core of the digital revolution and have contributed to the rise of those big platforms that are today at the center of the competition policy debate. I would like to give you a few examples of this use of algorithm that seemed really critical and justify the fact that we would look at them with a closer point of view. I would first start by the example of Amazon. When you remember the beginning of the e-commerce website, well, one of the most innovative features that proved extremely useful was the fact that when you would buy something, the Amazon website would recommend another product that might interest you because other customers had been buying the same things as you. So this type of feature is now completely commonplace in all the websites and has become, I would say, something that is mandatory if you are an e-commerce website. Another example of algorithms that have been used for quite some time are a pricing algorithm. When you look at websites today doing e-commerce, they adapt their prices constantly based on the prices they collect on other websites. But also within one website, you have a price definition that is going on. For example, when you think of the price that you have for an Amazon product vis-a-vis the same product on the Amazon marketplace. Other features of algorithms that have become quite classic are those that have been used for many years by airline companies to do yield management. And those have now spread in other sectors of the economy. For example, when you buy a train ticket today, now SNCF is also engaging in yield management, and that has led to some debate. Other type of algorithms really constitute the product that is being offered. Think about Google search. Google search is really not one but several algorithms working together to provide an answer to all the queries that you might type in the box. And those algorithms are continuously modified and improved so as to remain efficient and to keep on providing relevant results. Other type of algorithm that really constitute the product that is being offered to the public are matching algorithm. They can be used in very different contexts. For example, a driver using the Uber platform to find a customer and the customer looking for a ride, or also two persons using a dating application. And the CMA, for example, has been very active in the field of dating application to inform also users from the consumer side. You also have a very famous algorithm in France, maybe the most famous algorithm, the French APB or APB, that matches university students with different faculty programs. So you have a very wide range of algorithms that have been really at the center of innovation. For example, to personalize products and services, you might think about Deezer, Spotify, Netflix. They invest a lot of manpower in developing algorithms that will recommend the right music for you, the right TV program or TV series according to your taste. So those examples show that in the digital economy, the way algorithms work is really at the core of the business strategies of success and failure of the companies. Some sector of the economy cannot exist without algorithm. Think about online advertising, for example. You can do no targeting advertising. You can do no bidding or online auctions if you don't have algorithm. And also the way social media and social network capture their users and monetize their audience is directly based on the underlying algorithm. So we thought that the way those algorithms function and the impact they can have on competition needed a closer look. So what can you expect to find in this study? You will not find the definitive answers to all the different questions that may arise from the point of view of substance. But we feel it is crucial to look into those issues without waiting for major damage to happen to the market. Some of those new issues are complex, and maybe we might be discussing risks that will never materialize. For example, one of the topics of the study is the fact that you might have different algorithms that might decide among themselves to collude on price. So this might look like a sci-fi scenario that algorithm might become intelligent and find that it is more intelligent for them to create a cartel. But we need to think about this outcome and we need to think about what might be the possible responsibilities for the companies that use those algorithms. We also want to underline that those studies are part of a global approach on digital issues. And we have the study like this one. We also have market studies or sector inquiries that have a deeper look in an industry and are based on intensive fact-finding. For example, the sector inquiry on digital advertising. And we also have some actual cases where we define if the competition law has been infringed or not. And in this study, we also try to take all the lessons we can derive from the actual cases that have happened, for example, the Google shopping cases and other cases that are referenced in this study. So the first part of the study looks in details at what is an algorithm, what are the issues from the point of view of competition, and in what way you can classify algorithm. For example, we provide a list of algorithms based on the task they perform. For example, if they monitor or collect information, if they set or adapt price, if they personalize products and services, or if they are used for ranking purposes. And in each of these categories, we identify what might be the potential competition issues. We also categorize algorithms depending on the input that they use. What type of data do they use? What amount of data? How detailed is the data? Is the data related to prices, to goods and services, to pictures? Where does the data come from? And depending on the answer to all those questions, the algorithm will have a different type of impact on competition. We also take a closer look at the ability of algorithms to learn and adapt their behavior independently of human intervention. So this is the part of the study that is really looking at something that is new, that did not exist a few years ago. Those are the new type of algorithms that you can call self-learning and based on machine learning, that are capable of improving their performance without this evolution being defined in advance. We also look at a specific kind of algorithm. I would say that the classical type of algorithm could be called descriptive, because you could explain what it would do in a rather simple manner, even though the actual programming might be complex. But we also see now what we call black box algorithm, in which it is very difficult to describe what the algorithm actually does and in what way it changes the input that are being given to them. So this is one of the most fascinating aspects of the study. How do you look from a competition point of view to an algorithm that you are not really able to explain or describe? So this is one of the things that will be most complex in the future, not only for competition enforcers, but also for other type of enforcers that might have issues with this type of algorithm. Then the second part of the study takes a closer look at the risks of collusion. Because, of course, from the point of view of competition enforcers, the fact that algorithms might collude on prices or other key parameters of competition is extremely worrying for us. So we look at the extensive literature that exists on this topic and that has been very useful for this study to try to see what would be the scenarios in which algorithm could be used or could be the means of a collusion. The first scenario is quite classical because you have actual people meeting and defining a cartel and then using an algorithm to put in place this cartel. This is something that we already saw in some cases. It is not so new, but it's interesting because the algorithm is used as a tool. The second scenario that we develop is more original. In this type, we look at the scenario in which a third party provides the algorithm. The third party might be a consultant or software developer. And this algorithm becomes a means of coordination between competitors. And a third type of scenario that we looked into are the one in which algorithms are existing and used by different undertakings. So you have several algorithms, no contact between undertakings. And still, we look at the possibility that those different algorithms might facilitate an alignment of the market behavior of the different undertakings. So this is really a sort of innovative scenario that we look into from the point of view of theory and practice. And finally, the third part of the study looks at the challenges for competition agencies that derive from investigating algorithm, with a focus on different issues that are very important for us. The issue of evidence gathering. When you are looking at a potential competition law infringement that involves an algorithm, what type of data are you looking for? At what moment will you be asking to the company data about their own algorithm? And this will lead to the third one table that will be the point of view of the enforcers, and that will also be the opportunity for them to talk about what is going on in their jurisdiction. For example, in Germany, the new discussion about the new law, or in the UK, the follow-up to the Furman report, and also the projects that are being looked at in Italy. So I would like also to add that we will be looking at the point of view of the companies, and this will be the topic of the roundtable that will look at how companies are actually using algorithm, for what purpose, and what is their point of view on this issue of algorithm. So finally, I would like to share with you a few takeaways from the study. The study itself, when you at the end of the conference, you'll be able to take with you the executive summary, but the study will be available online for the full version of it. First takeaway, I think that enforcers need to have a more thorough understanding of the way algorithms are used to do business. And I also feel that companies must be able to explain very clearly how those algorithms work, what are their purpose, and in which way they are managed. So this is something quite new for companies, because in former times, the chief digital officer would be answering to what the top management would be asking and doing something. You did not necessarily need to know how he did it if in the end the algorithm worked. Now, considering the legal implications, it is important for companies to be able to explain what are the objectives of the algorithm, how they are managed, and also for them to set up internal checks and balances. Second takeaway, I think that undertakings, companies should consider that the default scenario is that they are responsible for any result of an algorithm that they use. Of course, if it's an algorithm that they created themselves, but it might also be the case if they simply use an algorithm or that they bought off the shelf or that has been provided by a third party. This means that the legal or compliance director should have frequent conversations with the chief digital officer, better safe than sorry, and those are issues that need, I think, to lead to some internal thought from the companies. And thirdly, and of course we will go deeper in this issue on the last roundtable, we feel at the end of this joint study that in many cases the current legal framework at the European level, at the German level or the French level is quite sufficient today to catch collusion or abuse through algorithm. The real issue is detection. How are we going to know what the algorithms are doing? How they are concretely used in the different transactions, because most of these things happen below the radar. So I hope you'll enjoy the conference. Thank you very much.